Hello and welcome to La Jolla Babylon, Season 1, The Making of a Suburban Punk. A podcast where I tell stories of my unsupervised Gen X youth to my coddled millennial little sister who happens to be the funniest person I know, the writer, actor, and comedian Katie Hartman. I'm your host, Aaron Hartman. You ready?
I've been ready for years, baby.
All right. Hey, man. Welcome back.
Oh, hey, man. What's up, dude? Thanks for having me back.
You can't start off ridiculing how I talk.
Oh, well, then don't talk like that. Just kidding. You can talk however you want. Hi. How's it going?
The main thing that's going on is that my kids are back from camp.
Oh, yeah.
So my house is now a fucking carnival of emotions and smells and,
okay, I
demands.
literally thought it was going to be like Carnival of Whimsy. Really
No.
not.
No.
Smells and...
No.
What was it?
No.
Smells and demands?
I'll have to check the tape, but yeah, smells and demands.
Wow, it's weird. It's almost like you didn't know this was ever going to happen.
Well, I had completely forgotten how the whole thing works. But can I have to tell you about their first day at camp really quick?
Please.
Okay, so we dropped them off at the drop-off spot, which is probably like a 25-minute drive from our house. And then their camp is on the coast, so it's like probably like a 2-hour drive out there. And so, they pile in their buses and, all the parents are waving goodbye from this like kind of parking lot or whatever. And then me and Alicia have this now tradition of going to this place to get kind of like a fancy brunch afterwards, because it's like, oh my God, we can have brunch, And then, we come home and I think, Alicia maybe got a massage and I think maybe you and I recorded, I'm not sure. And then she had made some homemade like fresh pasta, with the fucking pasta maker thing. And I made fresh pesto with like homegrown basil from the yard. And it was just this, we're going to drink wine on the front porch and the whole whatever. It's like just a couple like empty nesting motherfuckers, right? So like I just made the pesto. I'm actually boiling the pasta. I hear her coming inside and she says my name in this way that is really hard to describe. It's like this questioning kind of, there's like a worried tinge in her voice.
Alarmed?
But it's a little bit alarmed, but it was something I think I can do. It's like, Aaron? Do you know what I mean? It's like, why, like what does that tone mean? Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like if it was in a movie, I thought about this, like, it'd be like, Aaron may have turned into a zombie, but I'm not sure. So I'm just going to like peek my head in the room and go, Aaron? It was like one of those things. I was like, yeah. And she comes into the house. She goes, why are the kids' suitcases in the car? Yeah.
Oh, no.
And it was 6:30.
Oh, no.
Their first day of camp. And let me just backtrack a little bit and say, like, one of the things that I did that day was I took this long walk with a friend of mine, and I, was like, oh, we dropped our kids off at camp, which reminded me of this time that me and Karen's mom forgot to pick us up at camp when we were, I think, probably 8 and 10, or maybe like 9 and 11 or something like that. And so it was that, and I told this whole, like, this long story about, oh my God, like, it was like kind of traumatic. Like I never really forgot about it, it was like this, like,
terrifying.
it was like this really, like, a little bit like she could never really get that back from us, right? I mean, it was a pretty brutal. So Karen and I had been gone for 4 weeks at the summer camp, and so we got dropped off at the community center in Los Angeles, with all the buses, and all the parents came, and we watched all the parents leave. All of our friends, go home with their parents. And then the counselors start leaving. And, the camp director's like, you want me to call your mom?
Yeah. Probably a good idea.
Yep. And she just had it down on the wrong day. And so she had to, but it was about 3 hours from home. So, she was about 6 hours late picking us up from camp.
Oh, my God.
Anyway, so I told this whole story to my friend, and then, a few hours later, realized that really, it was really my fault. Like, Alicia had taken the kids to go to the bathroom before getting on the bus. And so, like, I was in the car, and I sort of, like, it was a little bit of a little bit of a chaotic drop-off situation, but still.
Listen, people leave babies in the backs of cars. You know what I mean? It's a thing. It happens. These things happen.
No, it's a thing.
Did you have to drive them to?
Oh yeah. So basically, like, so we had this, homemade pasta and this fresh made pesto, and we've just fucking like inhaled it like it was like, nachos during the Super Bowl. just fucking inhaled it, and then I drove as fast as possible. I mean, because what was going on in my head was I was like, you know this about me, like, especially if you've been listening to this, I have really tried to like not be my parents, right? And this is like a perfect example of like doing exactly what my mom had done. Do you know what I mean? And I know.
I mean, those are two different things. They are very different. The suitcases are not children. And
yeah, it's true.
You didn't forget, like you're not torturing them.
That's
you're not,
true.
You know, they didn't even have to go a night without clean underwear. You did great. You did great. Is that what you wanted to hear me say?
No, I appreciate that. But it's more that it was just like the stress that my body was feeling and that drive to camp was just like, I couldn't.
Yeah, it was almost as if you had left yourself at camp.
Oh no.
It's funny because I think the other way to have taken that, although we can't really choose how I think we react, or maybe I haven't been to enough therapy, I don't know, where it's like, oh, now I maybe have a little bit of empathy for my mom.
Yeah. No, that's actually that's a sweet way of thinking about this. Yeah. Well, and the truth is, what we found out like a decade later was that the reason why she forgot about it was she had actually just had a hysterectomy.
Oh,
and
wow.
she had just got it all mixed up, got it all jumbled up. Yeah.
Damn. That's great. Yeah. Oh, man. So then you didn't need any added empathy.
That's not what I meant.
Oh, okay. That's where I was going with it. They're like, well, actually, she forgot because she had some major surgery and like a big life change.
She didn't even have a uterus when she picked us up. I mean, what the fuck?
Well, yeah, that's how much she left kids behind.
You're a bad person.
That's why you invited me on here. For moments like that. You can't. Hey, what are we listening to today?
Okay. Okay. That's really legitimately funny.
Oh, good. I'm glad I got one. What episode is this? 9? Nailed it. I've been working so hard.
You're professional.
Score 1 for the Katie. Yeah, I try.
So tell me how you're doing. I just gave you a whole fucking thing.
Oh, I'm good. I mean, I'm fine. I mean, I don't know. It's all fine. What are we listening to today?
Okay, fine. Yeah, so today is fucking crazy. I'm telling a crazy story today.
Great.
This is a truly fucking bonkers story, and I don't want to like oversell it, so I'm just gonna say it's fine. It's like a normal thing that happens in high school.
Okay,
but I guess
can't wait.
This definitely goes into the category of Katie and Aaron grew up in different circumstances.
Great.
All right, so I will send it to you.
Yeah.
And let me know when you're all done.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. the John Muir Alternative School for Humanistic Studies. My new school was designed to teach its students how to survive in the real world, how to make informed choices, how to deal. Here's an example. Every 12 weeks, we would design our own quarterly schedule. Every kid knew exactly how many credits or units of credit they needed to graduate. That was the game. Earn your required credit and get your diploma. State graduation requirements were posted in every classroom. State entry conditions and community college fees were also common decor. Every 12 weeks, we were responsible for arranging a schedule that would fit into a graduation plan. Or not. Chaim Lohman, our academic counselor, would meet with each student and review his or her handmade schedule. He would recite, "I see you aren't taking any math this quarter. You need 25 more math credits to graduate, and you're a junior. So if you don't want to take math now, which is fine, and you intend to graduate the normal way, you can't take any more math holidays." When I arrived at the John Muir Alternative School for Humanistic Studies, Chaim invited me into his office. He was a weathered-looking, 58-year-old bohemian. His eyes were mopey and haunted. He could have been an uncle of mine. He ate rice cakes all day and taught a psychology class once a week. Most of his students slept through his lectures, which he rationalized by saying, even in sleep, quite a bit of information can still get processed. His real psychology class was how much more he revealed about himself than he realized. He welcomed me to Muir and wanted to make a few things clear. If you ever want to just sit under the big tree on the front lawn, counting leaves all day, the only thing I'm going to ask you is how many leaves there are. Of course, you'll fail the classes you're ditching, but that's all up to you. Muir was housed at a converted elementary school. We had 360 students between kindergarten and 12th grades. The students in middle and high school could generally fit one of three profiles. The first being the drugged-out drifter who just sort of lost his way. These kids elicited the general fear parents and city officials harbored about our school. The black hole reputation was something I had to keep from my mom and dad as I worked on them for the months prior to my imminent transfer. The second denomination of students would describe myself and the friends I made while at Muir. Bright, like seedlings, awaiting a spring rain. We needed nourishment and love. We had been too, curious to stay focused on regular scholastic topics. We were geeks who smoked cigarettes, who knew how to work a blowtorch or a loom, and could name at least 2 Charles Bukowski books. We were pretentious in our verbiage and completely disorganized. Some of us were anarchists, but we were also mechanically inclined, multi-instrumental, and generally fairly stoned. We had grown-up relationships with our parents and with each other. There was also, apparently, lots of casual, grown-up sex. The rest of Muir's student body was, in all actuality, kind of nuts and a little scary. We were staffed with fairly dedicated teachers who pretty much cared about their students. Most teachers had transferred from regular schools after fallings out with old administrators. Denali and I were not happy to reunite my senior year. There were only a handful of teachers who had truly alternative takes on education. Dana, who lived in her camper truck with her 3 dogs, was a rare, unjaded, jolly presence. Although she was officially an English teacher, she was mostly teaching us not to compromise our core values. She also taught a popular class called Nuclear Fiction, Nuclear Diction. Growing up in the 80s, I was a clear beneficiary to the hard-fought culture wars of the 1960s. Frank was our most prized faculty. He lectured about street fights in the 50s, nailing girls in Chevys, doing drugs with cultural icons, and other tantalizing tales that maybe should have had some cautionary or educational slant, but never did. He wrestled in college and still had that brick torso some men maintain even after their new metabolism takes over. In the movie version, he's played by 1990s Harvey Keitel. He allowed us to hang whatever posters we wanted in his classroom. The one he provided said in large, colorful letters, "Win the rat race? You're still a rat." Frank taught history and government to middle and high school students. He was an inspired teacher. In lectures, Frank's personal history would always come into play. In one memorable lesson on Pearl Harbor, Frank recalled watching a Japanese-American schoolmate getting beat up in the back of his 6th grade classroom. Frank remembered his teacher breaking up the fight, only to kick the kid a few times himself. He also taught a class I was not allowed to take called Sex and Drug Education. One of his bragging rights was that he had been the sex and drug educator at Claremont High School while Cameron Crowe was posing there as a student, writing the screenplay for Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Frank could explain, character by character, who those people were in real life. Frank told us the kid Spicoli was based on used to ask him if he was getting good deals, would actually pass Frank his bags for his inspection.
Stems and seeds, that's what he'd show me. You got ganked, you little bitch, I'd tell him. You don't know dick about shit.
Frank's other claim to fame was that his brother owned the hotel used in the video for Say, Say, Say by Michael Jackson and Paul McCartney. If you look really close, you can see the frame and a half featuring Frank as the mustachioed bartender. When his annual spring quarter sex and drug education class came around, I signed up.
"What drugs do you do, Adam?"
Frank asked with an ironic twinkle. I was sober, and aside from taking too many mushrooms when I was 14, I was alone and spent 4 tear-filled hours staring at myself in the mirror. I hadn't traveled as intensely as my classmates tended to. My virginity was apparently obvious, so he wouldn't let me into the class.
"It's only for sexually active users, amigo, not losers like you."
So no, I never set foot in the class. But here's what I heard went on there, and I believe it. My peers really would present Frank with their baggies of this and that, and he really would tell them if they were getting ripped off or not. His philosophy was straightforward. Kids are going to do drugs because they're fun. They're going to have sex because it feels good. So instead of lying or giving misinformation, we should educate our youth so they know what they're getting into. Applause. At Muir, there was no question. These kids were doing whatever drugs they could get their hands on and fucking like mutant bunnies. Frank said it was a race against time to educate his students before they got addicted or pregnant. On Fridays, as we shuffled off to our buses and cars, he would step outside and yell,
"Have a great weekend! Don't get addicted! Don't get pregnant!"
I loved Frank. We all did. He would explain the dangers of mixing drugs with alcohol and give tests on the psychoactive properties of THC, LSD, and other drugs he knew his students were experimenting with. Instead of rumors from peers and dealers, Frank would give his students a chance to actually learn what they were putting into their growing bodies from a professional with experience. Frank ate like a monk and drink water with vitamin C powder all day, except between Thanksgiving and New Year's, where he claimed that nothing was off limits. For the last 5 weeks of every year, Frank apparently went total apeshit. As far as sex goes, Frank would give his legendary account of how he knew firsthand that sex with a circumcised penis was superior to uncircumcised, because in his 20s, serving on a naval ship off the coast of Korea, in a fit of boredom, he bribed the ship's surgeon to circumcise him.
I'm one of the only men in the world who can say definitively that foreskins are for shit.
He'd throw his head back and give his wrestler's growl yell,
Thank God I was right!
He was mostly there to advocate using condoms, dissuade the thinking that abortion was as good as birth control, and tell insane stories about himself.
Extra credit. Who here knows how to fuck a chicken? Anybody? No hands? Okay. Right before you shoot your wad, you wring its neck.
We all trusted Frank, since he had lived through his own perilous life. Fuck Bill Cosby. Frank was our fantasy dad. He'd tell us that if we could figure out how to make it to 30, we would be all right.
High school ain't shit. It's getting through your 20s that'll kill you.
For a handful of Muirites, this proved to be prophetic. On parent-teacher night, Frank would out his gay students, refer to Lulu and Kathy as his menage, and talk about his drug education book no one would publish because the moral majority death grip the Reagan years fostered. Introduction to Female Hygiene. By the time I transferred to Muir Alternative School from La Jolla High School, I had a pretty good idea of how things worked. I knew which teachers were cool and which students I would end up being friends with. I started with a somewhat crippling advantage in that I had a little information on everyone of interest. In his brief tenure at Muir, Charles made a lot of phone friends and kept me updated on the couples and other gossip-rich information he thought I should be armed with as I entered my new life as a Muirite. Charles was trying to instill a sense of preparedness. Since I had transferred to Muir from uptight La Jolla High, he was concerned that I was nowhere near ready for my new education. For instance, Jake and Jerry. They were identical twins and born to walk alone. They did everything they could to drain their chances of any sort of intimate friendship. They could be bitingly funny if they liked you enough to say something mean. They told everyone their mother was a conservative political activist and tucked them away at Muir to evade the possibility of any potential constituents running into her crazed offspring. Jake and Jerry only wore clothes they found on the street or in actual garbage cans. There are precious few photos of them, but I managed to sneak one while they were actively pillaging a giant blue dumpster. It's somewhat blurry, but you can make them out. They look like wild animals let loose, terrorizing a peaceful village. One stands guard while the other reaches in, extracting who knows what. Jake and Jerry were not their real names. Stories and myths circulated around them like body odor. Jake, the more outgoing one, had once decided to steal the answers to a math test and was inside the classroom snooping around when the teacher, Rabin, walked in. Unnoticed, Jake quickly hid in the broom closet. Rabin was there to grade papers and teach 3 classes in a row, a total of 4 hours. Jake was too terrified to budge and stood in the dark quietly. At some point, she peed on herself. It was the smell of urine that gave her away. Oh, right. Jake and Jerry were girls. They were intense. They were strong, thick legs, broad shoulders. Their hair was red, actual red, not orange that people call red. And it was big and knotty and dirty. They were not unaware of their impact on a room. They could double team you by standing one on either side, talking at the same exact pitch, speed, and tone. It was practiced. It was insane. When I first arrived at my new school, I would only need to stand still for a few moments before a swarm of twin would buzz around, threatening to sting. I always thought Jerry had a thing for me. Hanging out with the twins off campus was never very fun. It was one thing to laugh as they interrupted class with grotesque sideshow antics. It was something else entirely to be at Denny's and see one of them walking through the double doors to steal fries from the kitchen window. I was not happy to find them at my house on my birthday. I wasn't having a party, but I ended up with 10 or 15 people in my room because we had all been to a show at the Che Cafe. My favorite band ended their set with a real pie fight. We went nuts, swimming in the sticky goop. Since I lived closest, I invited everyone over to shower or whatever before continuing on with our night. I also wanted to show everyone what Dan and I had found earlier that day. We had been riding around on his new motorcycle and stopped at Mesa Community College to sign up for fencing class. On our way back, Dan spotted a bag lying in the middle of the road. We practically flipped over as he slammed on the brakes. He hopped off the bike, sprinted to the sack, and threw it to me as he got back on. We zoomed back to my house at a heart-pounding clip. This was before helmet laws, so from behind I could see that Dan's face was contorted into an ear-to-ear grin.
What do you think's in it? Money? Drugs?
What could be a better birthday gift? When we got back to my room, Dan pulled down the blinds and plopped the bag down. We started digging. The main compartment was full of clothes, mostly girls' gym stuff. A sweatshirt, headband, dirty socks. We threw them at each other for a while. There was one final pocket, the tiny front one with Velcro. I said out loud, "This is where the money rolls in." The only thing we found was a blood-encrusted tampon. It took a minute to figure out what I was holding. I'd seen unused tampons before, but this was smaller and purple-brown. Back everything went into the stupid duffel bag. That night, after everyone arrived at my house, messy with cherry filling, I had to figure out the best way to present my new plaything. I told Terry to go through the bag and see if he could find the treasure. He liked to be watched and made good use of the stage I'd set for him. He rifled through. Each time he pulled out a new item, he was convinced that he had found the special prize. It was getting stressful.
No way!
He pulled out some nylon running shorts.
These are insane! How could anybody wear these fucking things?
He put some chapstick on his lips. No, Terry, keep digging. Try the front pocket. He held the tampon gingerly. He clearly had no idea what it was. He rolled it between his fingers, pretended to smoke it.
This is amazing.
He smelled it, heard the girls cackle, made a face, and got it.
Oh man, that's not fucking funny. Now I have to go wash my hands.
I knew it was mean to put him on the spot like that. Our friendship had changed since Dan and I stopped doing drugs. Terry's impulse to bully me had bubbled up by teasing me in public. I was starting to let go. He put the tampon back into the bag, took it out again, pretended to eat it by palming it. I'll eat that for real. We turned to see Jake, or Jerry, probably Jake, standing in the corner of my bedroom. She was wearing long underwear, army pants, cut-off jeans, a hot pink sweatshirt, a t-shirt advertising some trucking event, a shiny blue windbreaker, and combat boots. I'm serious. Give it to me. I've never used a tampon anyway. Her sister continued the train of thought. We don't use tampons. We use our mother's socks. Whenever we start bleeding, we raid her sock drawer. It's fucked. Her sister continued the train of thought. Once, when we were like 11, we got our first period. We hated our mom already, so we wanted her to think something was wrong with us. One of them had gone into the bag to retrieve the tampon, while the other piggybacked on the story they were telling. So at dinner time, we hid from her. She started yelling, "Jake, Jerry!" We wouldn't answer. "Because your names are really Jennifer and Sandra," someone bravely heckled. "Shut the fuck up." Anyway, she was calling and calling, but we ignored her. She finally came upstairs to yell at us. We took off all of our clothes and hid under her bed, bleeding, completely naked. She concluded the story in a sing-song, and that's how our mother found out we had our first period. The room was silent. Jake held the tampon up to the light. "Get me a glass of water." Water was fetched. The people smoking outside were summoned. There were 5 or 6 of the coolest people from my school sitting on my bed. A couple of them stood up for a better view. Someone turned on my stereo and played the second side of Bitches Brew. I was happy with the musical choice and upset about shoes on my bed. Jake was taunting us, ruminating over the best options for consuming this tampon. "Does anybody know if this is cotton or fiberglass?" She asked the other girls to look at it closely to see if they recognized the brand. She was taking suggestions on how to swallow it. Like a pill, chew it like a Tootsie Roll. "Smell this." I think she's a meat eater. "Yeah," her sister agreed. "Rich in iron, kind of dimey." If they wanted, this could have gone on for hours. I thought it would, so I took a quick shower. I had cherry filling and crust in my hair, ears, and nostrils. I wore sandals to the show, so I also had cherry between my bruised toes. I was happy. I knew this moment would be talked about for years. This was maybe the first time in my life I was able to notice something legendary that was in the works as it unfolded. I could only hope my name would be mentioned. "Dude, blah, 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 blah. Tampon, blah, 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 blah. Adam Waxman's bedroom." I wanted so badly to be part of these people. I dried off, dressed, and popped back into my room. Jake was sitting on my bed, quietly finishing a glass of water. All eyes were on me. Kathy buried her head into the flannel of her boyfriend's shirt, whimpering. Dan bounced around the room, making vomit sounds. The twins sat together. They had set my desk light at their feet, creating an amazing shadow behind them. Dan went to the bathroom to wash his hands. Bite after bloody bite, Adam. Bite after bloody bite. I missed it. After the last smokers had gone, the only people left were Dan Jones, Terry, Jake, and Jerry. Jerry asked, "So what do you guys want to do? I've got a couple bottles of Robitussin and we could go to Denny's." Terry looked me straight in the eye and told me she hadn't really eaten the tampon. She chickened out at the last second. He told me there was a conspiracy. Everyone agreed to pretend that Jake actually ate it. We were like, Adam will think she really ate it. Jake said that was bullshit. She could feel it traveling down her intestines. I could feel it expanding in my stomach. Someone threw it away, so you won't find it. I guess you'll never know if it happened or not. But if it did happen, it was amazing.
Aaron, you hung out with really gross people.
And we're back.
Truly generation stand by me over here. Like, what the fuck?
So I didn't oversell it, right?
No, it's
really
pretty surprising.
Yeah, so about 10 years ago, I got a Facebook message from one of the twins who sent me a message. I think it might take me too long to find it right now. But,
okay, so you're saying you didn't come prepared. That's fine.
Hold on. Anyway, so she texted me, or on via Facebook, because we didn't have each other's, we had not had any kind of interaction for years.
No, you probably thought she was dead, and then one day it's like, Jerry's here.
Here. Okay, I found it. It says, "Hey, Aaron, do you remember that night back in high school that I ate a crusty, bloody old tampon
Stop.
that I had found in the gutter?" So she got that wrong. "And choked it down with a teacup full of water. I was trying to impress you. Did it work? Ha 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 ha. Hope you're doing well."
I'm floored. I mean, she clearly was just like, wait, was that a dream or did I actually do that? I need verification.
In the same way that I was like, did that really happen? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that happened.
Yeah. So funny. So funny from start to finish. And also just like the glee of finding a bag on the ground and then being like, ooh, boy, this is going to be a good day.
Oh, yeah. And it was my birthday. And
yeah.
And we really assumed it was just full of cash.
Of course. An abandoned bag? What else would it be?
We were so mad. Like,
mad.
As we kept... Yeah, mad. Like, we hated whoever's bag that was.
I will say that hearing that story actually put into perspective, like, myself and, probably your generation and above or whatever, or looking at the younger millennials and the Gen Z, et cetera, doing shit online, like on Instagram or TikTok, that you're just like, why? Why are you doing this? But that instinct has always been there. There just hasn't been the technology to broadcast it, because she would have eat that crusty tampon on TikTok.
Oh, shit.
Hashtag crusty TikTok challenge. Crusty tampon TikTok challenge. There you go.
And then it would have been a whole thing.
A whole thing.
And then Tucker Carlson's talking about it.
Yeah. That it's such like also like the Chez Cafe, like the whole thing, the pie. Oh my God, I love that there was, I'm just like, that's performance art.
There was this band Pitchfork, and I don't know, I don't know if they did it more than once, but they literally just had like a stack of pies and just like, just started throwing them in each other's faces. And then we were all like 16, 17 or whatever, just like, lost our fucking minds.
Yeah, of course. This sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Truly amazing.
Yeah, it's the best.
And then, I mean, not to forget about your first chapter of the teacher here. Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah.
Great voice. Good voice.
Oh, you liked it? Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It wasn't distracting. It fit right in. I mean, it was it was funny.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you. That means a lot coming from you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like one of my three voices.
Well, you used it well.
Thanks.
Worked out. But I also like love that within all that chaos, he like had strict rules of who was going to take that class.
Yeah.
That's very
You couldn't
funny.
take the class unless you were actively having sex and doing drugs.
The 80s. Yeah, it's like, that is crazy.
I mean, it's not that fucked up if you really think about it.
No, I mean,
know?
I think it's like, I understand the policy. Like, I totally get it. But to like be in a public high school
Mm-hmm.
and to have that be a class, I mean, the adults didn't know. I mean, they couldn't have known, right? Parents didn't know what was happening.
I don't know. I mean, I think that when you're going to that school, your parents were kind of cool with whatever happened in there, you know?
Wow. Oh, I see. So that's why also you were in there being like, trying not to like have your parents actually understand what the place was kind of like.
It was like the school that had the worst reputation in town. But it was, you know what it was? It was kind of like, it's like a dive bar, right? It's like from the outside, it's super seedy, and the reputation is like, oh yeah, all this crazy shit happens in there. But you go in there, it's like really awesome, and everyone's cool.
Yeah.
And then you don't want anyone to find it. You don't want the squares to know about it.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
It was the kind of reputation that parents are going to, you know, like keep their kids away from, you know, and probably also keep their kids away from people who go there.
Yeah. So then moving forward, I mean, like, would you put your kids in that school?
Ooh.
A big pause. Big thinking pause.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I would. I would put my kids in that school. Yeah. I mean, yeah. In fact, I have a friend who I describe in an upcoming chapter who put his kids like basically K through 12 through that school.
Oh, wow.
And you know, they're happy. You know, it went through it was constantly being threatened to be shut down.
Sure. Yeah.
But mostly actually for busing reasons.
Oh.
Because it was such a small school, but it cost the same to bus kids in and out because, you know, there were only 360 kids between K through 12. And so for whatever reason, like the math worked out that like per capita, it was the most expensive school to bus.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so and because busing was mandatory, they had to offer busing because it was a magnet school. You could take as many credits as you wanted at that school, which means that you could like do like independent study, right? So you could, you know, I took independent soap carving.
Stop it.
Where I made soap carvings and then I just had to like, keep a little journal and like I got full art credit or whatever.
I mean, how were the carvings?
Terrible. One
They
kid.
were?
Oh yeah. No, I mean it was just me and a knife and a bar of soap. I think I did one. You know.
Me and a knife and a bar of soap.
Yeah. So but you could do as many of those as you wanted to, right? So you could graduate early.
Right.
If you did like twice the credits in high school, you could graduate, you know, at the beginning of 11th grade. And so a lot of kids did that. But the thing is, there are these books. There were, you know, for like the regular like math, and you could do that with math too.
Right.
And so
right.
you'd get the math, and you'd get these worksheets that you had to do. But one person copied all of the answers once, like in the 80s, because the books never changed, and fucking laminated them.
Wow.
Laminated them.
Wow.
Laminated them. So they could be passed around. And so
What a hero.
you could do an entire quarter's worth of math or biology or whatever in like 15 minutes.
Dude, what?
Yeah.
What? Yeah. And just by copying. That's oh boy.
Yeah, you
Wow.
could get PE credit for picking up cigarette butts on the front lawn.
That's like you know, I went to Sarah Lawrence and we do have a PE credit that we have to like fulfill,
Mm-hmm.
but you
Yeah.
can take a breathing class.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I do know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is That's not really the equivalent to picking up cigarette butts for PE credit. Oh boy, that's so funny. Well, what a treat, what a joy today.
Thank you. I'm so glad you liked it.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to you hearing this guy. Well, so you want to talk about what's going to happen next?
Yeah.
All right. So this next one is it's 2 chapters, and it is the time that me and Dan Jones go to Tijuana to try to see Bad Brains.
Is that a band?
Bad Brains is a band.
Okay.
They were kind of like the most awesome hardcore band.
Okay.
And they were playing in Tijuana, and the main word in that sentence is tried to see Bad Brains in Tijuana.
Great.
So that was a whole fucking thing. And also like more Boys Suck coming up.
Great.
And then the second is a description of my special job that I had for years.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, this is very fun. Hashtag crusty tampon TikTok challenge. Hashtag crusty tampon challenge. That's more efficient. We'll go with that.
It'll be in the show notes.
Great. Okay. Yeah. And if anybody wants to tag us on your crusty tampon challenge, please do. We want to watch
Please don't.
it. It's going to be very impressive to both of us.
That's K-Heart Sucks. And I will delete it if you try to say my name. Well,
see you
awesome.
later.
Thanks for joining me on a beautiful day.
Yes. Well, it's hot in this closet. I'm going to go sweat. All right. Love you. Bye.
Right. Love you too. Bye.
Have a great weekend. Don't get addicted. Don't get pregnant.
Thank you so much for listening. If you like what you heard, please tell a friend and subscribe. Your 5-star rating will help others find this fucking podcast. Please check out the show notes for links to Katie's comedy and a full transcript of the show. La Jolla Babylon Season 1, The Making of a Suburban Punk, was written, produced, and edited by Aaron Hartman, with music by Aaron Hartman, co-piloted by Katie Hartman, presented in association with Ruinous Media. To hear more episodes of this show or other Ruinous Media podcasts, please go to ruinousmedia.com or wherever you get your podcasts.